And new generations in the workplace. We're talking with Dr. Tana M. Session about how Gen Y and Gen Zs are changing up the way businesses operate.
Labor experts say Generation Y and Generation Z will make up 50% of the workforce by next year, and that number will jump to 75% in 10 years.
That might be tough to accept for some baby boomer bosses and coworkers who often complain that younger employees are too self-involved and soft when it comes to heavy workloads.
But research shows Gen Y are strong multitaskers who are digitally savvy and juggle multiple career goals, but because they're nicknamed Generation Me, they require more attention and job flexibility than their colleagues.
Meantime, Generation Z grew up with social media, smartphones, and the stress of economic downturns. They're considered more aware of world issues, community, and social responsibility. Joining us now is speaker and multi-generational strategist, Dr. Tana M. Session. She is the best-selling author of the book, Get Your Career Life in Order. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
So it appears what older employees expect from their bosses is actually quite different from their younger workers.
Absolutely.
So what are the four major things that Gen Y and Gen Z expect from their bosses?
Well, there are four categories: fairness and equality, inclusion and diversity. They also want you to have trust and mission-driven focus, and then finally, corporate social responsibility.
Okay.
Those all seem like pretty reasonable things to me, even for an old guy like me. And you cite 5 ways these younger workers hold the power to influence how businesses operate. Let's get through them, starting with how to prepare for the future.
Sure. So I want to use an acronym, POWER. So the P stands for Prepare for the Future of Work. These employees are looking for their organizations to help them keep their skills relevant. And they also, if they're younger emerging leaders, they want to have the companies invest in their personal and professional development. And that can mean hiring them an executive coach or aligning them with a mentor.
Okay.
Then you go to O, and that's for optimizing inclusion and diversity. This is the most diverse group of employees in history. And they not only expect to see themselves represented with companies, with their clients and their customers, but also internally with leadership and amongst their own team members. Then we get to the W.
Yeah.
Working together for the greater good.
Okay.
And in there, they're looking for, there's a lot of political and social issues that are impacting the employees. They're wanting their companies to help support them and provide resources to help them deal with these things because they're talking about it in the workplace now. Then we get to employee engagement surveys. So how many of you have ever done an employee engagement survey? So they're looking to say, hey, I've given you some responses in terms of what I want to see change.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to that response and what changes will happen and which ones won't. And then finally, the R, and that's where they're looking for reducing hierarchy. So we used to have high-level cubicles. Well, this group is the ones that help those walls fall down.
Yeah, but the boss is the boss.
The boss is the boss, yes.
So how can you not have a hierarchy if there's a boss and then there's a manager and a...
So they're actually wanting to be able to go not only to their immediate manager, but to their boss's boss, and even sometimes the CEO. Because if they have feedback in regards to what can improve in the workplace or how their roles can be impacted or changed, they want to go to someone who can help make that happen. And in this world of social media, they know they can have direct impact to individuals. So if they don't have that information in the workplace, they'll go through direct messaging through social media.
It's always been where between the generations there's differences and maybe they don't understand each other. Is it more now between these different generations that are all in the workplace together than it's ever been before? I feel like it is.
It is, yes, definitely. And a lot of companies are struggling with how to communicate, how to recruit, how to retain, and even how to develop, but in particular, how to retain. So what's important is understanding what motivates each of these different generations and how to really collectively bring them together. And that happens when you're able to have diverse work teams, so that way you can have different opinions, different conversations happening, and having a mix of those generations. And what I tell all of my clients is they have to understand we were all millennials at one point.
And on the hierarchy thing, tell us how to execute that so that if you have a company that has typically had a hierarchy, how do you break down those walls?
It starts all with communication. So there is a way for them to be able to communicate their questions, their suggestions or recommendations to someone who can actually make a change. That will be helpful. So some companies have implemented their own internal social media sites for that purpose. office. And they also have intranets versus internets, where the employees can talk amongst themselves internally. And that's where crowdsourcing really comes into play. And this group is really big on crowdsourcing because they want to say, hey, I'm having this problem, or I'm having this issue, or I thought about this. And then they can get other voices involved, which will then help with the change.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning. Again, Dr. Tana M. Session is author of the book, Get Your Career Life in Order, and Huffington Post recently named her the top female expert to follow. You can follow Tana across social media, and to learn more, you can go to her website and get a free gift of her checklist for the top 5 questions to ask your manager.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.